I heard the bedroom door lock. Not slam, lock. That tiny click sounded louder than any argument we'd ever had. She was inside. I was outside. And for the first time in our 7-year marriage, I realized the house had borders. Invisible lines I wasn't allowed to cross anymore. It was 2:13 a.m. I know because I'd been staring at the microwave clock for over an hour, waiting for her to come home. I didn't even ask where she'd been. What's the point? She walked in smelling like cinnamon gum and someone else's cologne. Tossed her bag on the couch. Didn't even pretend to hide the second phone this time. I said her name once. Just once. Calmly. She didn't respond. Just walked past me. Like I was a lamp. Like I didn't flicker anymore. That's when I followed her to the hallway. Not to fight. Just to talk. She turned. Looked tired. Or maybe just done. And she said the line I can't forget. It's my body. My choice. No context. No explanation. Just those 5 words, like a sentence passed by a judge. I opened my mouth to say something. Anything. But my throat locked up. Because that was it. That's all she gave me. Not, let's talk. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I need space. Just a declaration that I didn't belong in the equation anymore. She locked the door. I stood there like a fool. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I grabbed my keys. I walked past the dog, the laundry, the unfinished grocery list. I stepped outside, barefoot, and got into the car. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I was done begging someone to let me exist in a marriage they'd already deleted me from. She said it was her body, so I made a quiet promise. She can keep it, but she doesn't get to keep me. I parked in front of a gas station 2 towns over. Didn't get out. Didn't turn off the engine. Just sat there with my hands on the wheel like I was waiting for someone to tell me what to do next. The lot was empty except for a flickering streetlight and a delivery truck unloading crates of energy drinks. The cashier inside looked half asleep, and for a second, I imagined walking in, buying something. Anything, just to prove I was still a person who existed in the world. But I didn't move. I just watched my breath fog up the windshield. I kept thinking, what did she mean by that? Not just the words. I knew the words. It's my body, my choice. But what did they mean in our context? We weren't fighting over anything medical. Not having a baby. Not dealing with health decisions. This was something else. Something I was never really invited into. You know how people say you'll feel it in your gut when something's wrong? That's a lie. I didn't feel it in my gut. I felt it in the nothingness. In the blank spaces between our conversations. In the polite nods, the short texts, the carefully timed showers so we wouldn't cross paths. I replayed the last few weeks in my head. The mysterious weekend trip with her friends, where she came back with a sunburn and no photos. The sudden interest in sleeping in separate rooms to improve rest cycles. The fitness tracker she bought that she never synced to her phone. I was such an idiot. The signs weren't subtle. I just didn't want to see them. And now I was sitting in a running car, miles from home, too ashamed to call my brother, too proud to go back. At some point, I started crying. Not sobbing. Just these quiet, embarrassed tears that slid down like they were trying to hide. I wiped them with my sleeve, then stared at the red indentation the steering wheel had left in my skin. That's when my phone buzzed. One notification. A single word from her. Okay. No. Where are you? No, please come back. Not even a fake concern. Just okay. Like she'd expected this. Like she'd prepared for me to finally vanish. I should have turned the car around. Gone home. Fought for answers. But I didn't. Instead, I booked a cheap motel under a fake name. Gave the front desk a fake smile. And as I lay down on a mattress that smelled like lemon cleaner and regret, I realized something gut-wrenching. She hadn't broken my heart. She'd just slowly erased me from her life. And I had let her. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling fan spinning above me, ticking slightly every third rotation like a broken metronome. My phone sat face down on the nightstand, and for the first time in years, I didn't check it. I didn't want to see her name. I didn't want to hear whatever came next. The motel was the kind of place people pass without ever looking. Beige, sagging curtains. A vending machine that took your dollar but never delivered the Coke. The kind of place where you don't leave your socks off, not even in bed. But it felt more honest than my own house. That scared me. Around 6 a.m., I finally sat up, legs hanging over the edge like I was a kid who'd been sent to the principal's office. My head was pounding, not from alcohol. I hadn't touched a drop, but from holding everything in. My jaw ached from clenching all night. My spine felt like it had folded in on itself. I wanted to call someone. My brother, maybe. Or even my old college roommate, Theo, the guy who once told me, if she ever stops arguing, you've already lost. At the time, I laughed. But that phrase hit differently now. Rowan hadn't argued in weeks. She'd just gone quiet, smooth, indifferent silence like a clean break in a crime scene photo. I got dressed and drove. No destination. I just couldn't sit still. Ended up parked in front of a strip mall with a 24-hour diner. I went in, sat alone, ordered eggs I didn't eat. Across the room, a couple in their 60s were eating pancakes, smiling, laughing. He had syrup on his chin. She wiped it off without hesitation, like it was the 1,000th time she'd done it. I nearly cried again. Because we used to be like that. At least I think we did. It's hard to remember now. I don't know when we stopped wiping syrup off each other's chins and started hiding text messages behind passcodes. When I got back to the motel, I finally checked my phone. 5 messages. None from her. All spam. I don't know what hurt more, the silence or the complete absence of even the expectation of contact. I opened our shared calendar app out of habit. That stupid digital schedule we made when we were trying to be better about communicating. Doctor appointments, grocery runs, meetings. And there it was. 11 a.m. Consultation, Bellevue Women's Clinic. Today, no context, no notes, just a blunt reminder, like a bullet on a spreadsheet. I stared at it, heart pounding. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't want to assume, but I felt sick. I had no right to ask. She'd already told me. It was her body, her choice. But that didn't stop the storm in my gut. Because if she was going through something huge, life-altering, and didn't even consider telling me, then maybe I wasn't her husband anymore. Maybe I was just a name on a lease. By the time the motel clock blinked 10:15, I was already driving toward Bellevue. My hands were cold on the steering wheel even though the heater was on full blast. I told myself I wasn't going there to spy, that I wasn't one of those husbands. But every turn of the tires betrayed me. It wasn't curiosity. It was desperation. The kind of desperation you feel when you're drowning and someone walks by holding a rope but doesn't even glance your way. Bellevue wasn't some anonymous clinic on the edge of town. It was tucked into a renovated Victorian house with a white picket fence and flower boxes. The sign out front didn't even say clinic, just a vague, tasteful wellness center in soft script. I parked across the street, hidden behind a delivery van, heart hammering like I'd just committed a crime. My phone was in my lap, blank. She hadn't texted. She hadn't called. At exactly 10:58 she appeared. Rowan, in a long camel coat I'd never seen before, hair pinned up like she was going to a board meeting, not a wellness appointment. She didn't look sick or sad. She looked deliberate, calm, like someone who'd rehearsed every step of this morning. I sank lower in the seat, feeling pathetic. What was I even doing here? This wasn't some movie where the husband bursts in and stops the big reveal. This was my life, and my life had already been signed off without me. She walked up the path, glanced at her watch, and disappeared inside. I stayed in the car for 30 minutes, staring at the door she'd gone through. People came and went, some young, some older, some with partners holding their hands. Everyone had a shadow of a story behind their eyes. But Rowan had walked in alone, like she wanted it that way. I thought about texting her. Are you okay? Can I be there for you? But my thumbs hovered over the screen and then froze. Because what would I even be to her now? An intruder? A nuisance? A stranger she still had to pay bills with? So instead I just sat there, chewing on my sleeve like a child, and my brain started racing through every possibility. Maybe it wasn't what I thought. Maybe she wasn't pregnant. Maybe it wasn't even medical. Maybe it was therapy, or something cosmetic, or some kind of test. But deep down, the ache in my stomach told me otherwise. When she finally emerged almost an hour later, she didn't look shaken. She didn't look relieved. She looked like someone who had crossed a line and decided not to look back. She paused on the steps, checked her phone, typed something quickly, then slipped the phone back in her bag. I wanted to get out, to cross the street, to say something. Anything, but my legs wouldn't move. I just watched her get into her car, start it, and drive off without once glancing in the mirror. When she turned the corner and vanished from sight, something in me went with her. Not my love. That was still there, stubborn and pathetic. It was my sense of belonging, my illusion that I was a participant in my own marriage. I sat there until the delivery van pulled away and sunlight hit my face. Then I realized how ridiculous I must have looked. A grown man hiding in his own car, watching his wife live a life he wasn't allowed to enter. That was the moment. Not when she said the words in the hallway, not when she locked the door, not when I left the house. But this moment when I finally understood. She had already made her choices. And all that was left was for me to make mine. That night, I returned home for the first time in 2 days. I didn't knock. I still had a key. But when I pushed the door open, something felt different. Like the house had shifted ever so slightly in my absence. Enough that nothing sat quite right anymore. The hallway light was on. Not the warm lamp we used to keep by the couch, but the ugly white overhead that made everything feel clinical and bare. I stepped inside, expecting silence, but instead I heard the low murmur of voices upstairs. Rowan was on a call, laughing. She hadn't even noticed I'd left, had she? I stood at the foot of the stairs for a moment, listening to her laugh. The same soft, smoky laugh that used to belong to me. Or maybe it never did. Maybe it was always hers, and I'd just been borrowing it all these years. She laughed again, then said something muffled, then, "I'll call you later, okay?" Her voice dropped to a murmur as she closed the bedroom door behind her. I didn't go up. I went to the kitchen. The dishes I'd left in the sink were gone. A new basil plant sat by the window, one I hadn't bought. 2 glasses in the drying rack. 2. So, someone had been here. Or maybe she was just drinking for 2 now. Either way, it felt like an invasion. In my own home, I grabbed a beer from the fridge, sat at the table, and just stared. At the wall. At the clock. At the life that was now clearly moving forward without me. She came downstairs around midnight, barefoot, scrolling on her phone. She didn't flinch when she saw me. Didn't even seem surprised. "Oh," she said. "You're back." That was it. Not "Where were you?" Not "Are you okay?" Just "You're back." Like a pet that wandered out and returned before dinner. "I saw the calendar," I said quietly. She glanced up. Her expression didn't shift. "Okay," she said. The same word she'd texted me. Cold, efficient, final. I tried to meet her eyes, but she looked past me. "I didn't think it was something you needed to be involved in." "Involved in?" I echoed, my voice cracking. "Involved in what? You didn't even tell me." She sighed like I was exhausting. "Clark, I told you already. It's my body. My choice." "And what about us?" I asked. "What about our life? Do I even exist in that equation anymore?" Silence. Just that flat stare she'd perfected over the past few months. The one that said, "I've already left. I'm just waiting for you to notice." She finally said, "I didn't tell you because I didn't want to debate. I didn't want your feelings clouding something that's mine to carry." "But it's not just yours," I said, standing now. "You don't get to erase me just because it's convenient." She flinched. Barely. But I saw it. A flicker. A fracture in her armor. "You left," she whispered. "You walked out. Because you locked the door on me, Rowan," I said. "You locked me out before I even touched the handle." She turned, walking away, but I followed her. "Tell me the truth," I said. "Was there someone else?" She stopped at the bottom of the stairs, still facing away. "I didn't cheat," she said softly. "But you left me, didn't you?" I asked. Silence. That silence was louder than a scream. "I want a divorce," I said. The words tasted like blood, like I was biting my own tongue as I said them. She turned back to look at me. Not angry, not shocked, just tired. "I figured," she said. "I already made an appointment." I laughed. It was bitter and hollow and ugly. "Of course you did," I said. "Of course you did." Then I walked to the front door. No bags. No drama. No slamming. Just that soft click behind me as the door whispered closed. And this time, I didn't look back. 2 days after I left for good, I received an email from a woman named Iris. No subject line. Just a single sentence in the body. "You don't know me, but you should know the truth about Rowan." At first, I thought it was spam. Some phishing scam designed to lure vulnerable people into clicking. But the sender address was a real name, not a string of numbers. I stared at it for 5 minutes before replying with a cautious, "Who are you?" She answered within 5 minutes. "I'm her sister." I didn't even know Rowan had a sister. She never mentioned anyone named Iris. Not once in 7 years. She always said she was an only child, that her parents divorced when she was young and both moved away. She didn't like talking about her past, and I, like an idiot, thought that meant I was her future. Iris sent me her number. I called. Her voice was careful, slow, like someone carrying a bomb that might explode with the wrong word. I don't want to get in the middle of anything, she began. But I saw what she posted. I saw what she didn't post. And I couldn't just stay silent. What do you mean, posted? I asked. There was a pause. You haven't seen her new account, have you? What account? Iris sighed. She has a second Instagram. One she doesn't use under her real name. She goes by Rosie. It's mostly private, but some posts are public. She talks about freedom from male energy and reclaiming the body after suppression. She's been chronicling everything, Clark. Every move, every decision. And not once, does she mention she's married. I sat down. Hard. She has over 12,000 followers, Iris continued. Most of them think she's a single woman starting over after trauma. She even posted a photo from Bellevue with the caption, "Today, I took my power back." I couldn't breathe. My lungs felt like they'd collapsed inward. Did she? I started, but couldn't finish. She implied things, Iris said. Never directly, but enough to get sympathy. Donations. She opened a Support My Healing Journey page. People are giving her money, Clark. Real money. I felt sick. I thanked Iris. She didn't ask for anything. Just said, "I'm sorry. I really thought she'd changed." And then she hung up. That night, I found the account. At Rosie_soul. Her profile picture was cropped, but it was her. No wedding ring. No trace of me. Just yoga poses, herbal tea photos, and long, poetic captions about leaving toxicity behind and choosing autonomy over apology. And then I found it. One post, dated the day after I left. A photo of an empty hallway with a single pair of heels in the corner. The caption, "When they walk out, let them. Your peace isn't up for negotiation." Thousands of likes. Hundreds of comments calling her brave, inspiring, powerful. I didn't comment. I didn't message her. Instead, I sat in my empty apartment and laughed. An ugly, cracked sound that didn't even feel human. This wasn't just betrayal. It was performance. She hadn't just ended the marriage. She'd rewritten the entire narrative, cast herself as the survivor, and edited me out like a scene that didn't fit the plot. And the worst part? It was working. People believed her. They loved her. And I was the ghost. The invisible man. The nameless villain in someone else's origin story. I didn't sleep that night either. Not because of the anger, though it sat in my chest like wet cement, but because I couldn't stop scrolling. Post after post, caption after caption, filtered image after filtered image. Rowan's online life was mesmerizing in the worst possible way. She had curated a persona so far from the woman I married. It was like watching a stranger wear her skin. Spiritual quotes, emotionally charged monologues, vague references to escaping a manipulative dynamic. She even filmed a reel, soft piano music in the background, her face partially turned from the camera, a voiceover saying, "You're allowed to outgrow someone who keeps you small." It got shared thousands of times. Some influencer even stitched it, calling her a symbol of feminine rebirth. I sat there with shaking hands, staring at my cracked phone screen, the glow lighting up the emptiness of my apartment. I had nothing to post, nothing to say, no audience waiting to validate my pain, no curated caption to make abandonment look poetic. And that's when I realized something. I couldn't win by playing defense. Rowan had turned her departure into a performance, and I'd been letting her direct the entire story. But there were still people in her real life. People who knew the truth. People who remembered the wedding, the vows, the house with the blue shutters she picked out because it felt like us. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to smear. I just needed to show up. It was a Thursday when I saw her next. Not by accident. I'd heard through a mutual friend that she was hosting a grounding circle at a rented studio space downtown. Normally, I wouldn't have dared. I wasn't confrontational. I wasn't dramatic. But something in me had snapped, quietly and permanently. I didn't barge in. I didn't cause a scene. I waited until the session ended, then approached her just as she stepped outside into the fading orange light, barefoot, holding a cup of something herbal and steaming. Her eyes widened when she saw me, but she didn't look surprised, just mildly irritated, like I'd shown up at the wrong airport terminal. "Clark," she said, voice level. "This isn't the time." "No," I agreed. "But it is the truth." She tensed, looked around. A few of her followers were still milling nearby, waiting to take selfies or hug her like she was a war survivor. I kept my voice low, steady. "You can keep the story," I said. You can keep your curated victimhood, but you can't keep pretending I never existed. I'm not doing that, she snapped, her mask cracking for just a second. You erased me, I replied. And that's fine. Honestly, I don't want to be a chapter in your little spiritual novel. But if you're going to build a brand off the back of our marriage, at least have the decency to admit it was real. A pause. Her jaw twitched. Clark, I don't owe you anything. No, you don't, I said. But you owe yourself honesty. Someday, when all of this fades, the likes, the mantras, the curated grief, you'll remember that there was a man who showed up, who stayed, who listened, and you locked him out and called it liberation. She turned sharply, walking away. But I wasn't finished. I hope you find peace, Rowan, I called after her. Real peace, not applause. She didn't respond. She disappeared into the parking lot, into the next version of herself. That night, I deactivated my social media. Every last account. I didn't want to be part of the narrative, not even as a silent antagonist. But I did send one email. To Iris. Thank you, I wrote. I'm going to be okay. And I hope someday she will be too. Then I closed the laptop, opened the window, and for the first time in months, slept straight through the night. 6 months passed. Seasons shifted like pages turning in a book I no longer felt trapped in. The leaves outside my apartment turned gold, then fell. Winter came and went, and with it, the sharp edge of everything she'd left behind. I still thought about Rowan, not daily, not bitterly, but like a name carved faintly into a tree. Something that had once mattered, something that no longer bled when I touched it. I'd moved into a small apartment above a bakery. The smell of bread woke me every morning, and the old woman downstairs insisted on slipping a warm roll into a paper bag with my name on it every Friday. I started teaching piano again, something I hadn't done since college. Quiet work, patient work, kids with sticky fingers, and old men chasing the songs of their youth. It grounded me in a way nothing else had. There was no audience, no followers, no narrative to maintain. Just music. Just people trying to get the notes right. One afternoon, I stayed late at the studio. A girl named Eleni, 9 years old, missing her 2 front teeth, had begged to learn the theme from some video game I'd never heard of. We worked on it together until her dad came to pick her up. He thanked me, said she hadn't smiled like that in weeks. I waved it off, said it was just notes and rhythm. But after they left, I sat alone at the piano and played a little something for myself. No phone, no notifications, just sound filling a room that finally felt like mine. A few days later, I received a letter in the mail. Handwritten, unmarked. Inside was a single photograph, a candid shot of Rowan and me from our 2nd year of marriage, taken at a lake house we'd rented for a weekend. We were both wet from rain, grinning like idiots, holding grilled cheese sandwiches. On the back, in neat handwriting, was a single sentence. You weren't the villain. I just wasn't ready for the life we built. No return address. No apology. But I didn't need one. I placed the photo in a drawer. Not to hide it. Just to let it rest. That night, I went to the bakery for tea. Iris was there. Yes, that Iris. We'd stayed in touch, slowly, carefully. She'd moved to town recently for work, and we'd run into each other by accident more than once. This time, she invited me to sit. We talked. Not about Rowan. Not about what was lost. But about books. About music. About what it felt like to be over 30 and starting from scratch. When I walked her home, we passed a jazz band playing outside a bar. I laughed and told her I hated jazz, too chaotic. She smirked and said that's exactly why she loved it. At her door, she paused and said, "You seem lighter." I nodded. I think I finally stopped carrying someone else's story. And I meant it. I didn't get revenge. I didn't go viral. I didn't win the breakup. But I got something better. I got myself back. And for once, that was enough.